You tired of throwing runs in Party Finder? Ready to take your runs a little bit more seriously? You should join my Discord, link below, and find a party that actually knows what they're doing. Anyway, server plug out of the way, let's get straight into the video. The last video that I made about dungeons, I was a spirit bone on in floor 5. If you're also at that state of the game, there's a lot of work to be done. Starting with floor 6, because it gives you a decent amount of catacombs XP, and it's one of the easiest and fastest floors. Each run should take you less than 5 minutes. A lot of F6 parties need tanks, so I switched from archer so that I could get into more lobbies just to get the XP really quick. For gear that I was using, at first I was using necromancer armor to stay alive, and then at Kata 24 I got an F7 carry and just bought full Necron. Now just because you hit Kata 24, you shouldn't just go into floor 7 right away. You're gonna be far too squishy and you're just gonna be a burden to your team. Instead, I recommend optimizing your floor 6 runs by opting in for a golden sedan head, getting a gyrokinetic wand, and get some healing items so you don't die. For weapon, I would just use a Juju shortbow to clear, and then use a baby yeti for pet. With the baby yeti, you should have enough effective HP to tank this floor. It's really not that hard. Just keep spamming your healing wand and use your ornate zombie sword whenever you need to. If you ever get dangerously low, just press Q when you're invincible for 30 seconds. If you're dying in Necron with Baby Yeti, you just have to get your Kata XP up, or just get good at the game. I recommend doing floor 6 till at least Kata 32. This should only take about 200 floor 6 runs. Once you hit Kata 32, you can start prepping for floor 7. I kept most of the gear that I used for floor 6 and moved it over to floor 7. But I added a few extra items. A few items you'll need is a Withercloak sword, a Bonzo staff, a Bonzo mask, and a slime hat. Just in case if you die, you should get a spirit pet, and tanks should get an axe of the shredded. Now, floor 7 is a lot different than any of the other floors we've played so far. There's actually strategies that you have to learn, and there's multiple bosses. I'm gonna go over some of the strategies from the perspective of a Berserker, but each class has different tasks that they have to do. First off, crystal grabbing. I see way too many people fail this, and it's just so easy. Grabbing the crystals is usually the Berserkers and the mage's job. You're supposed to get them as quick as possible so that this doesn't take forever, while the tank aggroes and the archer clears all the wither skeletons. If Maxor takes long, it's usually your fault if you're the one grabbing the crystals, so just get good at it. If you're crystal grabbing as a burst, you're going to want to jump into the lava stream, and then after you take the first tick of damage, activate your wither cloak, and you should fly to the top. And then you're going to stand on this specific block right here, Bonzo staff, and then right click to grab the crystal. Might take one run of practice to get it down, but after that, it should be really easy. And then there is one strat that I know that can make this run a lot quicker. For this run I played archer to demonstrate, but if you take Maxor to the laser and you get him down to 50 million HP, he stands there stunned for a few seconds, and if your crystal grabbers are quick enough, you can just skip the second stage completely. However, one of our guys missed the crystal and we failed it, which should show again how important it is to get this down. Overall, I think Maxor is the easiest of the 3 bosses and should take you the least amount of time. And with all that being said, we can now drop down and talk about Storm. Storm boss, you're gonna definitely want your Bonzo mask and your Withercloak sword, just so that you don't die. When you first fall down, immediately go to the yellow and green pads and just clear the entire area. We usually put archers in charge of clearing the shadow assassins on the pads, then assign 2 people to be padders to crush Storm. Note that this cannot be the tank. After you clear, Storm should go to the center and there's going to be a countdown on your screen. Once it hits 1, do your Withercloak shield and stand under the pillar just in case. Then after that, Storm is going to come to you, let the tank aggro, and then let the padder crush. We were a pretty confident team, so we were pre-crushing. Right after the first pillar, I would just run over to the next pad and just crush him right away. However, if you can't do that strat, you're just gonna need a good tank. The use of a slime hat to not take knockback, and a soul whip or an axe of the shredded to take aggro, it shouldn't be too hard. As you saw right there, Storm pretty much just stopped right in front of our tank. If you fail a crush in a situation like that, you might as well just restart the run. That's pretty embarrassing. And then, after the second crush, it's time to run to the red pad and drop down to the next boss fight. If you haven't already, make sure to put on your Bonzo mask for this part of the fight. Also, make sure to have spirit leaps in your inventory. They will for sure save your life multiple times throughout this floor. Gold ore is pretty easy of a boss. All you have to do is do your terminals, and that's about it. When you're doing devices, change to a slime hat so you don't get knocked back, and you can hop in the lava for movement, but I recommend putting on your Wither Cloak shield so that your tank doesn't get nuked. If you're struggling with the terminals, just download a solver. I recommend Soupy because it also shows you where all the terminal locations are and which ones are still active. There really isn't a ton of advice that I can give for this floor other than maybe have one guy set to do all the devices just so you know that it's gonna get done, and then everybody else just has to do their job and get all the terminals done. It's not that difficult. Then when you do all the terminals, the core entrance will open, and then just go into DPS phase. This is usually where I take my Bonzo mask off and switch back to a golden head so that we can do more DPS. And then the final boss fight with Necron is pretty self-explanatory. You just shoot him with whatever you have. First 200 million HP, he's gonna come after you, and then at 800 million HP, he's just gonna go to the center, and then you should be able to one-phase him with a competent party. And then that's it. You're done. Now you can drop the handle. Now I might have missed a few things. I'm not claiming to be a professional here, but if you have any other tips, you can just leave them in the comments. I think I covered a decent amount, at least more than enough to start doing the floor. There's a few more advanced techniques where you can go into the next stage early and do the devices and all of that, and I'll just cover that in a later video because it's a little too in-depth for a beginner floor 7 guide. Other than that, if you found this useful, please like and subscribe. It helps me out a lot.